As of the release date of this video, my favorite film of all time has just turned 25 years old. Jurassic Park, directed by Steven Spielberg and distributed by Universal Pictures, released on June 11th, 1993, and has become one of the most defining pieces of media in my entire life. Spawning a multi-billion-dollar franchise of toys, video games, comic books, and most importantly, sequels, with the 5th installment arriving outside of the United Kingdom in just about a week, Jurassic Park was more to many than just a film. Even as someone who wasn't born in time to see it, or even its first sequel, The Lost World, at the time of release, I can always still feel the enormous impact this film has had on myself. There have been other movies that I've loved, namely the Back to the Future trilogy by Robert Zemeckis, with the original 1985 film always holding the spot of my second favorite movie of all time. Then there's more recent releases such as 2017's Baby Driver by Edgar Wright, Denis Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049, or even the goofy, ridiculous animated thrill ride that is 2014's The Lego Movie, directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. I love many of Spielberg's other films too, but nothing has ever or will ever truly compete with the beast that is Jurassic Park. At least, not in the same way. For this year's Jurassic June and the 25th anniversary of Spielberg's thriller classic, I wanted to take a look back at what I feel makes this film so captivating, and why I will always refer to it as my favorite movie ever made. So, what is it about Jurassic Park that makes it so perfect for me? Well, let me first stress that the film isn't perfect. It's just as close to perfect as my favorite film needs to be. There are technical errors galore: the disappearing robot arm, Timmy's magical door, the hand on the raptor's tail, the seemingly levitating raptor, the misspelled dinosaur embryo names, the reused shots of Ellie Sattler. I could go on. Then there are some of the visual issues that were actually fixed in the 2013 3D re-release, such as the stage lights in the Rex breakout scene, and the strings on the Dilophosaurus frill. It's sad to hear that these fixes don't remain in the recent 4K Blu-rays, but I suppose it's more authentic without them. Despite these small technical issues, Jurassic Park remains almost perfect because those are basically the only issues with the film. Everything else, the characters, the script, the acting, the special effects, the score, the cinematography, the pacing, the subtext, everything in this movie works, and it works great. I don't just love this movie because it has dinosaurs in it. I love this movie because Spielberg created a masterpiece of filmmaking that can be enjoyed across all levels of the audience's engagement. If you just want a fun, suspenseful thriller about people surviving on a dinosaur island, then you've got it. If you want a cautionary tale in a grounded sci-fi reality about the ethical issues surrounding genetics and cloning extinct creatures, then you've got that. Or if you want an emotionally satisfying adventure where a grumpy man learns to overcome his dislike of children and start a family of his own, Jurassic Park 3, then you have that too. Jurassic Park is a movie for just about everyone. Let me first gush about the sheer genius that is the technical craftsmanship of folks like auteur director Steven Spielberg, director of photography Dean Cundey, and special effects artists like Dennis Muren, Phil Tippett, Michael Lentieri, and Stan Winston. Rest in peace. People can try and act like they don't like this movie and pretend that the characters are bland and there's no subtext and that this is a movie for children, blah blah blah, whatever. Nobody, however, can say that Jurassic Park is a technical failure in any department. This film is a pure marvel to behold, and that's just part of why seeing it in the cinema back in 2013 had such a tremendous impact on me. There's a wonderful in-depth analysis about the subtextual narrative presented visually in Jurassic Park by Mike Hill, so I'll link that below if you're interested. I wanted to highlight some of my own observations that I found after years of watching this movie though. For one, there's the introduction and exit of the park, presented in a bookend fashion. Arriving at the island, we see the doors of the Jeep open to the Jurassic Park logo, before we begin our majestic tour of the island. At the end of the film, after Rexy saves the day and our human characters escape, we're greeted to a shot of the Jeep's door once again, except this time the logo is stained by mud and the music is soft and somber. The park is closed. In the original novel, it's mentioned how raptor in Spanish refers to hupia, a ghost. Raptor also means kidnapper, thief, child hunter. How fitting then in the film for the raptor's biggest scene, and also the most iconic for its fear factor, to be a pair of raptors hunting a pair of young children in a place where we create things for the purpose of being eaten. Fitting as well that the raptor's vocal library is made up of dolphin noises, creatures known for their intelligence. In all of the films before Jurassic World, there was a clear message that relying on weaponry wasn't a good idea. Grant uses a gun for momentary self-defense, but most of the other characters in the series who rely on firearms to save themselves against dinosaurs end up biting the bullet in the end. Robert Muldoon, game warden who tries to hunt the raptors, meets his end with weapon in hand. Eddie Carr attempts to free his rifle while saving Malcolm, Sarah, and Nick in the Lost World, and is devoured immediately afterwards. Many of the nameless hunters try to blindly fire machine gun rounds back at Buck and Doe, and fail to achieve anything. The mercenaries in Jurassic Park 3 are some of the first to go. There's a pretty clear message that these creatures can't just be shot to pieces to contain or control the threat. It also completely contradicts their sympathetic nature as animals along with their wondrous presence if they just get blown up with a rocket launcher. Jurassic World. I've never liked the idea of Jurassic Park games just being dinosaur shooters because that couldn't be further from the identity these films have. This isn't a B-movie franchise where dinosaur guts fly everywhere and the heroes are action stars with machine guns. Well, this used to not be a B-movie franchise. It used to be grounded and a lower tier of science fiction in terms of the fictional elements. The only thing you really needed to believe was that the dinosaurs had been cloned from their DNA. Everything else was entirely real. And despite that monumental task, making these prehistoric beasts live once more, I believe basically every moment of their on-screen presence. Now this isn't just because we're looking at some of the greatest animal effects ever put to film, but also because the actors are along the ride with you. Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, Joseph Mazzello, and Ariana Richards pull me into this world with their grounded, believable performances. Looking up at the gorgeous Brachiosaurus, watching Rexy escape her enclosure, and being hunted by velociraptors in the kitchen, all of these scenes are wonderful because I can immerse myself in this universe. The location helps for this too. I can't help but fall in love with the tropical landscapes of Kauai. In fact, it's a dream of mine to visit the filming locations one day. It's part of the reason I don't like the idea of dinosaurs on the mainland in these films, because we lose this lush green aesthetic. The film in general just has a great color palette and look. All of the characters are dressed in unique colors, which helps to easily tell them all apart and highlight differences between them. Malcolm is dressed in black with Hammond in white to contrast their viewpoints, Grant is in blue with Ellie in pink to display their evolution into the conventional family unit. Blue means boy or man, pink means woman or girl, father and mother. Bright yellow raincoats and red jeeps stand out in the dark rain. Hammond's face is drenched in warm orange tones during his Petticoat Lane speech while his glasses twinkle with light. All of the scenes in darkness have a lovely blue tone to them with spotlights cutting through the shadows. Even the dinosaurs, which aim for mostly brown, earthy tones, still feel larger than life and beautiful while remaining realistic in quotes. I always love how creative artists can be with interpreting dinosaur colors, but Jurassic Park has always done a wonderful job of presenting hypothetical, real creatures. Yes, the raptors were feathered, and yes, the Dilophosaur wasn't, well, anything like that. But everything else is done pretty well if you ask me. At least for the first two films. The fantasy of these animals has always been the fact that they really did used to walk the earth many years ago. I'd be an idiot not to once again give mention to the gorgeous creature effects, both practical and digital. The Jurassic Park aesthetic gave birth to some of the most convincing special effects creatures ever made, from concept art to screen. This isn't a horror movie, but the feeling of terror is supported by how incredibly impressive these effects are. 25 years later and this film still looks fantastic, aside from, well, a few shots. The Brachiosaur is probably the worst dinosaur overall, especially in its puppet form. The raptor CGI can look a little off in the kitchen scene, but that's really it. Rexy's animatronic is superb, the Dilophosaurus is eerie as it just stands there hooting softly, and one of my favorite shots in the movie is this close-up of the practical raptor head. Truly beautiful work. As an animator, currently halfway through my degree, this stuff is what inspires me to keep going. It's pure talent. It's a shame that this visual aesthetic has been somewhat abandoned in the Jurassic World sequels. It might not be clear to a casual viewer, but the Stegosaurus, Triceratops, Velociraptors, and especially the Pteranodons look very different in the World films, and it's for the worse, I feel. Look at this gorgeous Pteranodon at the end of The Lost World, and then look at these awful designs for what are canonically the same Isla Sorna pterosaurs in Jurassic World. Gross. Before wrapping up with this critical non-review, I wanted to go over why this film makes me feel things. I genuinely experience wonder and bliss while watching this movie, but also terror, shock, and anxiety. This movie, and The Lost World, are scary. Now, they don't scare me anymore, of course, but they are tense, chilling films that make me feel for the characters within them. The ominous presence of the Tyrannosaurus Rex during her famous breakout is incredible, and hearing Lex and Tim scream for their lives as she bursts down on top of them is truly a frightening image. It's the characters that make this so damn good. Timmy getting electrocuted and Lex screaming once more and then walking in circles around him sobbing uncontrollably makes me feel things, man. Putting children, especially siblings, in legitimate danger in any kind of story really gets to me for some reason. It's a situation that I just can't help but empathize with. I'll never understand the admittedly rare critique of this film that the human characters are boring, or don't have depth, or just aren't interesting. I just cannot relate to that mindset whatsoever. I genuinely love all of these characters. I even really like Sarah Harding, Eddie Carr, and Roland Tembo in The Lost World. I can't say the same for any of the further sequel characters outside of maybe Lowry from Jurassic World. However, even then, let's be honest, he's a bit pandering. Somehow I went all this way without even mentioning the music. I'm not sure what I can get away with on YouTube here, but John Williams is an absolute genius and his themes for the first and second films are truly spectacular. I got the collection CD a couple years ago and listened to it all the time. It's some of the best film score I have ever heard. The Alien Triceratops theme honestly gets me close to tears while watching the film. It's so beautiful and just makes me feel for this enormous sick animal even more. And hey, Michael Giacchino's score for Jurassic World is my favorite thing about that movie. I think it's excellent. I love his new themes for the park, the T.rex, the InGen military, and so on. Giacchino is the new John Williams if you ask me, and I can't wait to hear his scores for The Incredibles 2 and future Jurassic World sequels. So this Jurassic June is a pretty big one. During the 25th anniversary, we've got the 5th installment of the franchise, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, hitting cinemas next week, not counting those lucky UK folks who've already seen it, and Jurassic World Evolution, a game I've waited almost 15 years for, in just a day or two. In terms of the new film, I'm not entirely sure what I think just yet. I was very cynical at first, then got optimistic when I heard the news of animatronics and director J.A. Bayona, then I got cynical again after the first trailer and leaks of the Indoraptor, and then a bit more optimistic again as I saw more of the darker, scarier stuff of the film. Now the film has opened in the UK and reviews have started to crop up, but they're all over the place. Jurassic Park fans are eating it up, even those who I tend to agree with quite closely sometimes, and that has me a little bit hopeful, but then other reviews have mostly been quite negative. This can be one of two things. One, the fans are just being blind and love anything with Jurassic on it, which, to be honest, kinda happens with a lot of people to do with JP3 and Jurassic World if you ask me. Or two, this is a Lost World situation where people hate the movie even though, in my opinion, The Lost World is pretty damn great. So who knows? My personal ranking of all the films before Fallen Kingdom comes out goes like this. At the bottom, we have Jurassic Park 3, a complete failure in almost every aspect. The only thing about this movie that I recall liking is the raptor running in the background of one of the shots, and some of the shots of the Spinosaurus in the water. That's really it. Grant is fine, but he wasn't written well, just like the rest of the characters. The script wasn't even finished before filming began, and it shows. I haven't fully watched this movie in years, and I don't even remember any original score from it. It stinks. Above Jurassic Park 3 is Jurassic World. Probably the most conflicted experience I've ever had watching a movie. I wanted to love it, but I just couldn't. I don't hate it like I hate JP3 either, it's just alright. It's far too action-oriented instead of behaving like a suspenseful thriller, and the cinematography could be far better in a lot of places, but I enjoy a few scenes a bit, and the meta-commentary on blockbuster filmmaking is pretty interesting. Rexy's return was pure fan service, but it was done pretty well. It's easily the best part of the movie, but it could have been done better for sure. I don't care about Owen Grady and Blue at all, nor do I really care that much more about Claire, but I hope Fallen Kingdom fleshes them out. Only time will tell. Number 2 on the list is The Lost World Jurassic Park, a seriously underrated film in terms of its mainstream perception. I watched this movie again a few months ago and made a brief tweet thread about my feelings, but despite my criticisms, this is still a great movie. Not as good as the original, and I'd put this below other favorite movies of mine such as the Back to the Future trilogy, but it still has genuine suspense while introducing mostly likable characters and expanding the universe in a way that feels worthwhile. Yes, Sarah Harding was dumb to keep the jacket with the infant's blood on it, and yes, Kelly kicking the raptor out of the window is incredibly stupid. But those are my only major complaints with the film. 2 fairly minor things. The fact that people treat this movie like it's as bad as Jurassic Park 3 really baffles me. I plan on doing a full review of some kind for The Lost World one day and just going nuts with praising it, but today's not the day. I unashamedly love this movie. And number 1 is, no surprise, the original Jurassic Park. 25 years old today. It has the best characters, the best pacing, and is the most grounded and suspenseful of the entire series so far. In terms of effects and score, not gonna lie, The Lost World does rival it a little bit, but everything else, this movie's got them all beat. So where will Fallen Kingdom end up in the ranking? To be honest, I'm thinking I'll end up liking this more than Jurassic World at this point, but I'm still not getting my hopes up. There's a good chance I'll leave the cinema feeling depressed again, just like after I saw Jurassic World, but I would love nothing more than to walk out and say, you know what? That was really, really good. Maybe one day we'll have a Jurassic Park sequel that can somehow beat The Lost World and become my new number 2 on the ranking. I'll be seeing Fallen Kingdom Wednesday night next week at an early screening, so we shall see. Not going to lie, this video had to be rushed out a bit to meet the 25th anniversary deadline. I had heaps of university work due on June 1st, so the script didn't start until after that, and then I have another assignment due this Friday that I'm splitting time with for this video. There's a lot of things I've glossed over, whether unintentionally or not, that I just didn't have time to mention. I also had to cut out some portions of the script. This Wednesday night, I'll be seeing Jurassic Park again in VMAX with a bunch of my friends, and I am so incredibly excited. I haven't seen the film in cinemas for over 5 years, and I haven't watched it all the way through since August of last year, which for me is a pretty long time to have not watched Jurassic Park. I'm honestly expecting that I might end up crying a little bit while seeing it again, because I've been waiting so long for this to return to cinemas, and as I've said, it's my favorite movie. Fallen Kingdom will probably get me crying as well from the fan reactions that I've heard so far. Also, as someone who never got to have Jurassic Park toys, the new toy line from Mattel is a blessing. When I finally get some money, you can bet I'm at least getting a Thrash and Throw T.rex, along with any others I can afford. I would have loved this stuff as a kid. If it wasn't clear enough from this whole video, Jurassic Park means a lot to me. This isn't just a dumb blockbuster franchise. This is a meaningful reflection of real-world problems represented through wonderful characters and science fiction. But yes, on a pure surface level, it's just so much fun to see beautifully rendered dinosaurs on the big screen just being awesome. In my own little world, the series did end after The Lost World, and the dinosaurs got to live out their days happy and free on Site B forever and ever, but nah. If more dinosaurs get shot in Fallen Kingdom, then I'm going to riot, and if Rexy dies, why do I even bother living anymore? Thanks for watching, folks, and if you'll excuse me, I have an assignment to finish and a theme park to build very soon in Jurassic World Evolution. I'll be back sometime next week for my thoughts on Fallen Kingdom, and I'll probably end up live streaming a little bit of Evolution this week as well. After careful consideration, I've decided not to endorse the rest of this video. Wow, that was forced. Bye!